I'm all ready. I can even call the roll if you want to like really use me for all kinds of admin.
No, I'll just ask you for seconds and for votes. All right. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the Fairfax County History Commission needs to make certain findings for the record to record the evidence our compliance with all applicable laws. These motions address this compliance. First, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and location. I will ask you to pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Sally Lyons. There's Sally. Tammy Manarino.
I am here from Mount Vernon, Virginia.
Barbara Nape.
Barbara Nape is here from Reston, Virginia.
Cheryl Rapetti.
Cheryl Rapetti is here from Centerville, Virginia.
Ann Stuntz.
I'm here from just outside Vienna.
Jordan Tannenbaum.
He's muted, but he's here.
We can hear you.
Right, and I'm Elise Murray from Vienna, Virginia.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Jordan Tannenbaum here from Fairfax.
At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to the vice chair so I may make the appropriate motions. I move that the Fairfax County History Commission certify for the record that each member's voice may be heard adequately by each other member of the board.
I second. Jordan second.
And call the question.
Oh yeah, that's my job. I was thinking, God, what am I supposed to do next? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Oh yeah, because you didn't give the gavel. Wait, you did give the gavel. So you get to call the question because I.
No, you have to call the question.
Gavel.
I'll call the question.
All right. Second, need for electronic.
Excuse me, it's
All right,
only
let's
been
move
a
on.
year.
Need for an electronic meeting. Second, I move that the History Commission certify that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this commission and the public to physically attend this meeting in person. And the usual procedures that cannot be implemented safely or practically. As a result, I further move that the FCRHA conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and the public may access this meeting by calling 1-844-621-3956, event number 129-431-8563.
I second that motion. Now, Jordan, you get to call the question.
All right, I'm calling the question.
Do it.
Didn't I just do it?
I thought you have to say all those in favor.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Before we move on, what the heck is the FCRHA? Is that just left in there from sometime else?
Must be you're the one who typed it.
I know.
Yeah, and I think it is left over from some other copy of this.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't remember reading that before.
No, that just looks weird.
Third and last, need to dispense with FOIA's usual procedures to assure continuity in government, continue operations. Finally, I move that the Fairfax County History Commission certify that the matters on the agenda today relate to the COVID-19 emergency itself, are necessary for the continuity of the Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the county of the History Commission's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. Second, somebody?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted there. I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, we also have in attendance Denise Dressel from DPD and Elizabeth Kroll from County Archaeology. Is there anybody else in attendance, Denise?
No, there are no other attendees.
Okay. I'm not entirely certain why we're having this meeting, but since it's called, we'll have it. We still have 3 outstanding nominations: the Pope's Head Farm, Willie C. Preston Gravesite, and Carter Tolliver Family Cemetery. Where we left it was I was going to prepare questions for the applicants of those three, for those 3 nominations. Basically, I didn't get any response in December except for from one person, and I kind of gave up on History Commission stuff for a while. So that's still pending. Denise, you were going to visit the Pope's Head Farm site. Did you do so?
I did not. The owners, as the surge was happening after the Thanksgiving get-togethers, the owners thought better of a site visit and said that they would get back in touch with us when they had more comfort in having strangers visit their house. So that seemed, like a wise course of action, right, at that time. And so I'm anticipating, as we were discussing at the beginning of the meeting, everything seems to be moving in the direction of, rejoining normalcy, whatever that will look like. And so I would anticipate sometime in the next couple of months, we'll hear back from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Liz, your staff was going to check into the, particularly for the William Preston gravesite, the larger archaeological context.
Yeah, I talked briefly to someone at VDHR, and I need to, and I also talked to my staff, and Elise, I'm gonna have to, I can get back to you tomorrow on that. I think like the person out there, I kind of dropped the ball, so I apologize.
Oh, need not apologize to me. I was just, those were the 2 things that I thought were still outstanding in addition to my task.
Okay.
So that's sort of not what wraps those 2 up. I understand from Anne that she and Denise have been talking about the multi-property National Register nomination forms, and you think that that process might be helpful for Fairfax County. So Denise, if you could address that, if you're ready to.
Sure, absolutely. May I ask a question? I'm going to go back to the 2 cemeteries, though, if I may, for a moment, Elise. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. So I did not attend the Fairfax County Cemetery Association meeting. I've forgotten what exactly. There's a word in there that I'm missing. But I do know that Blake Myers was going to talk about the 2 nominations. So I don't know if anybody in this room attended that meeting. I think I had another meeting. There were three meetings that I was supposed to attend at the same time. But I just want to make sure that there's no anxiety out there in the public about these nominations not moving forward. And I was wondering whether anybody attended that meeting and whether you heard what was discussed at the time about the nominations. Okay, yeah. Anne shaking her head and okay.
And Denise, I think that night that there were conflicting meetings, I was probably at the same conflicting meeting as you were, because there was a reason I couldn't go.
Yeah, there were 3 that we had to spread ourselves amongst. Yeah, and so I couldn't attend that, but I know it was on the agenda, and I was just a bit concerned. But if I'm not hearing anything from the applicant, so I just wanted to put that out there and ask. Okay, thank you.
I need to talk to Mary Lipsey anyway about another topic, so I could ask Mary when I talk to her what, if anything was said.
Okay.
And is that a meeting that was recorded?
I don't
It's
know
not-
the answer.
It's not a public body,
Okay.
like this meeting. It's, they call themselves Fairfax County, but it's not a Fairfax County.
Affiliate.
I
Right,
think they're a 501c3.
Hmm.
so they don't have to record their meeting. They might have been recorded though, I don't know.
Yeah, they're the one that we're gonna, is that right? That we're gonna
Yes.
kind of partner
Yeah.
with, they'll be our friends of type group or something.
Mhm.
Cemetery preservation, that's the word we're looking for.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember thinking about it with respect to them. That was dumb. So
Well,
you're really trying to gauge if there's some urgency or some somebody.
Yeah, it just is it, are they, if it, since it was a topic of discussion at that meeting, I was just, if maybe we could be informed about that meeting and what happened. But since I would assume that members of this group might have been members of the cemetery group.
Okay. Yeah, I get all their emails and I don't go typically.
Yeah, I'm not part of that bunch.
What
I did talk to Mary months ago, so she knows that we're considering them. So we'll hear.
while we're still on what I'll call old business number one, not that any of you guys have seen the agenda, I don't think. It's not a real agenda. You didn't miss anything. So Elise, you said you're preparing questions on these things for applicants, and you would like to hear from us as well. I think you've heard maybe just from one of us, like probably Barbara, who's always.
I think that's right, but I forget what I said because it's a long time ago. But I
Yeah.
did read and send something to Elise, yes.
So I
Barbara
think,
didn't actually have any questions. She just had comments. Look,
That's right.
I'm assuming that because I didn't hear from you guys, you don't have any questions.
well, here's the other thing I would say, rather than make that assumption, I mean, that might be right, but it also might be that nobody's looked at it very carefully, or it was so long ago, we just don't remember. So, so I was just going to say, maybe we should just give ourselves an assignment that and with a date, like give us a week is a week okay? Or till Friday. I mean, just any period of time that's a deadline, because it just makes people do stuff. Sometimes. So is that okay? Can we say like Friday or Monday? And then if you don't make that, then you really don't have any comments.
We had a very detailed discussion about both of them. So that seems to be like one more time, take a look at them, assuming you still have them, and then put them together.
Well, now,
on
do
that
I still have them? That's the question.
They're on that great share file.
But didn't the share file expire? Those things time out.
They are not, and yeah, so we've been put on a I don't know what you call it, but we've been put on probation, and they're taking away our share file time. We can't have them up indefinitely. So I don't know I think that there's a 30-day time limit now. So if anybody needs any of the nominations, please let me know. I'm happy to forward them again. And then Liz there was some concern about the maps, because these are archaeological sites and they have associated archaeological sites. So Liz, there were maps that Liz did, bless, and I can send those as well.
Yes, I would appreciate that. I admit that I am not the neatest file keeper.
Okay, and I also sent you, I ran them through OCR. And I sent you a version that you can copy and cut from.
I probably have that, Lisa, and I can send that version. If you send it out to the whole group, I probably have it.
I do not remember that. And it was only like December.
It was December.
That's pretty bad. Okay, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
I'll just resend to the entire group. Does that sound reasonable?
That's probably smart.
I see Elise
So the thing
nodding.
we all need to do, yeah, the thing, I have this little compressed file called share file 3321. So that's like one incident when I did it right? That's what we all should do. So I guess we just have to get used to downloading.
Right away. I need to do it right away because it gets away from me and then I. have
Well,
lost
but then
it.
what happens? I mean, what happens is I always feel like I get the share file and then somebody adds something to it and I go, oh, darn. So I don't know. We just have to keep on top of it as best we can. Yeah,
Yes.
my files are kind of a mess, but I do have this really cool one called Inventory Committee File. There's great stuff in there. All right, sorry, Elise.
That's all right.
Oh, so what day do we give ourselves to? Monday. Is Monday okay?
Monday's
good.
good. I have ARB this week, so I'm not going to be thinking about History
Okay.
Commission after
Okay,
History
so-
Commission on Wednesday.
So
That's
do
the 12th, Monday, the 12th.
do the 12th. Do any questions or comments to our chair? Do the 12th of whatever this month is, April. Okay. Thank you.
And I think that's really all of our business except for the potential that Anne and Denise talked about.
Who was I talking about this with? You, Tammy, when we were talking,
Yeah.
Emailing today, I've always wanted to do one. I've had a bit of training. Barbara and I went a few years ago to do this, which is really the first time I thought anything deep about multiple property documentation form. And I guess one of the big examples is Rosenwald Schools. And then we found this cool one in Oregon that I liked. But I always wanted to do, before you brought this up, Denise, I always wondered if you could do one called 19th Century Farmhouses in Fairfax County, because they're always popping up. You always want to save them if you can, but it's, it's a whole big to do to write it. So if you had something else talking about agriculture, I mean, I don't know, that might be a little too much, not a homogeneous group. Then the obvious one that I think you want to talk about today, well, there's two great ones for Fairfax County. The Reston survey showed you where that might come in, and then the African American sites. So those are two very possible ones.
Right.
Over to you, Denise.
Okay, great. Thanks. Tammy had the idea of doing roadside architecture on Route 1.
Yes.
I know, I think would be
I'd love it for that.
Yeah. All right. So Anne sort of set the stage here. I'm gonna walk back just a bit though, to let you to give you an idea of why I'm thinking about this. So the comprehensive plan is our sort of guiding policy documents. It's in two parts. One is a policy plan, and the other is our area plans. The policy plan is broad policy of land use and everything that comes along with that for the county. And then each area plan, the county's divided up into 4 areas, and each area plan has more site-specific guidance in it. It's still huge, though. It's just an enormous document, but it's generally consistent, and it gives us our marching orders when we're reviewing development that comes in. So the inventory of historic sites is listed in the area plans under each planning district. So literally there is a list of inventory sites in each planning district. If there is an inventory site in the planning district, not all of them have them. And then there are a few instances of buildings and places that have been specifically called out throughout the plan that are not actually listed on the inventory, and Gum Springs is a really good example of that. We have planning language around it that says it's historic, but it is not listed on the inventory of historic sites, and it's really been a problem. I've only been here in this position almost going on 4 years, and it comes up all the time because it's not listed on the inventory. So we don't have boundaries, we don't have defined properties that contribute to it or don't contribute to it. And we don't have really any language that talks about its significance. It just says it's significant, but we don't have like that inventory, right? That inventory document that tells why it's significant and what we should be looking, how we should treat it. So all of that being said, the problem that we have with the Reston survey now, and I'm sorry, Elise is having to hear this for the second time because we went through this with the ARB, and I'll be going through it with the History Commission again on Wednesday. So sorry, Elise.
That's all right.
Yeah. So the problem that we're having with the Reston survey is that we have sites identified with no real nexus to the comprehensive plan, which is our planning tool for preservation, right? So the sites are still not on the inventory. They're not on a state or federal register, and they're not in an HOD. And those things are the nexus for the comprehensive plan. The sites have been recommended as potentially eligible, but they haven't gone through a formal vetting process. Therefore, the planners are really reluctant to incorporate them in any substantial way into the comprehensive plan. So here's the problem. That's the problem. So I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, all of the sites, when the consultant wrote the eligibility recommendation, what she said was the sites are potentially eligible. They're recommended potentially eligible under Reston's new town plan planning concepts. So that's a context that all of these sites are eligible or potentially eligible under, right? Well, that right there is your multiple property context. That all of these sites could potentially come in under if the inventory mirrored the National Register in that process. If the inventory had a multiple property designation as a process, and right now it does not. So that's what I wanted to talk to you all about. I think the Reston is really the test case here. The African American sites, a great percentage of them are actually already on the inventory of historic sites, which is terrific. There are still a few that are not, and that they will be surveyed, and particularly the standalone cemeteries. But the great percentage of the sites the individual sites that are going to be surveyed already are on the inventory of historic sites. Whereas the Reston sites, there's besides for Lake Anne, which we didn't even survey, we didn't even include in the survey because it's covered by an HOD, there's nothing on the inventory. Which is now a problem because we have the sites, they've been surveyed, they've been done, that first vetting has been done where 5 of them dropped off for being, she doesn't think that they're eligible for various reasons, mostly about integrity. And then the rest of them are in this kind of never land, this limbo land of not quite being vetted enough to be on the inventory, but also they're nothing, we know about them, and we do think that they're probably eligible. But to write an individual nomination for each one of those sites would just be a lot. But if we brought them in under a multiple property, larger context, then we just could do it not in one fell swoop, because of course each property would have to have its own nomination, but you wouldn't have to write the background. You wouldn't have to do that historical research to you know, to justify, you know, to prove the significance. All you would have to do is say, well, look, it meets the property type that has been identified in this context, in this historic context. So for instance, clusters, obviously the clusters were important in Reston, and maybe that could be a property type that, you know, all the clusters could come in under. So there's my idea.
Yeah, I think, Denise, I think it makes sense. I really do. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you do, and I haven't looked at all of the National Register properties that might come close to that, but certainly you've got your archaeological districts. Many of those archaeological sites, those features aren't necessarily connected. They actually sometimes are at a distance from one another. But it comes in as a district. Now we're talking about something else, a little bit different, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I would be supportive of that. I really would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Denise, what do you take in terms of establishment of a body of research? I attended some CRG training, gosh, 2 or 3 years ago. Laura Arsenault and I went to Winchester for it. Where they talked about this, and so what do we need to establish basic research?
Right. So my thought was that maybe pulling from this committee a smaller group of no more than 2, because as soon as we get 3 of you together, we gotta do a public meeting, but no more than 2, and myself to meet and sort of hammer that out. What that would look like. Just do the background research and then come back with maybe a feasibility to this group. And then perhaps, you know, once that feasibility has been established and this group that, you know, approves it, then that same work group would work out draft procedures, because we would need to put it out just as we have what am I trying to say? Examples and directions for how to write an individual nomination and how to write a district nomination. We would need those things done for, you know, a multiple property nomination. So it's work. There's the bottom line, Elise. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take work.
Hey, Denise, I have a question. Do we ever have, or Cheryl, you might know too, the ability to hire a consultant to do some of this work? I mean, there are, you know, cultural resource groups that probably have experience with this very issue and might be able to help out in this case. It may take a while for others to research, and this might be another way to approach it. Is that ever something that we can do? Has that ever been done?
Was that a question to me or to the
Well,
group?
I guess
Yeah.
I'll do the group, yeah.
I think I know the answer. In the past, when we had control of our funds, yes, we used to hire consultants and pay them directly. Now that the county has control over our funds, we would probably have to get DPD or something like that to hold the contract for us.
Yeah, at least I'm sorry, you just came, I
We would
couldn't hear.
probably have to get DPD
Yeah,
or somebody like that to hold the contract and administer it for us. We
Mhm.
cannot do things like that on our own. We cannot sign contracts on our own. That's a fact.
okay. Well, what
And I don't think we could hire someone and pay them. I think that the DPD finance office would probably not like that.
But
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, Jordan, this first step is something I think might be in our ability to do, because
Mhm.
it's just setting up what the form should look like. Yes, we need to hire somebody to, I would think, although Barbara knows everything about Reston and would know if there are people who will do it for free. But my guess is we might need to hire somebody to do to fill it all out,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
big and it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of good places to steal from, but you know, there's lots of good bits of history about Reston, but we would just be setting it up, you know, just a form and you know, and we would just adapt. I say just, it's got to be way easier than just, but I can see it's in the realm of our ability to do, because we take an existing form and just make it fit what we're looking for in Fairfax County.
Yeah, we're basically going to be, you know, just cribbing from the National Register and their formats, and we just adapt it to our use.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that the just part is really, it's, it always is.
We're creating a process. We're creating a process.
Yeah.
The big challenge will be to get the clusters to agree, because there are people around here who are convinced it will affect their sales, which it will not. It will benefit, but that's down the road. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I've told Denise that. But, you know, the first step, I agree, we need to come up with a basket to hold it, and we have to we have to make the basket, weave the basket.
Yeah, I think that would not be that, you know, difficult. Doing the actual nomination for Reston, yeah, that would be a bit more time consuming.
But since we have a form, we're not making a form up, we're adapting a form. We have to think up associated property types. I mean, there's things we actually have to do and think about. But it could be, I think that is doable, but yeah, I don't know. You know, we'll be kicking ourselves later when we said, God, whose idea was this? But, but I think it's worth trying, you know?
Absolutely.
Maybe once we jump in, we might say, oh my God, that's way harder than I thought. But I'm just looking at the bulletin, you know, how to fill one out as we're talking. And, you know, hey, there won't be any problem at all.
No, I think it makes so much sense. I mean, like the example I was giving from the Route 1, we know we've got these great old hotels that, you know, Chris and I have been talking about it for a while. And you know, you write one background, because Route 1, you know, that's all going to be the same information. And it just would be so beneficial to be able to just pick up that extra to write each site.
I love it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of examples of ones that have been done that, you know, you can look at and really kind of get what we would think was important and how you would do it for Reston itself.
I mean, I think Route 66 actually has been, there's a nomination for Route 66. So that could be, and I know that people have looked at, Society of Commercial Archaeology has looked at Route 1 extensively in this area. So there may even be something on that. But yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we all agree that this is something we should pursue. And that's about the next step.
Okay, well, who would like to work on it?
Who are the two people?
Right.
I think all would be great on this committee.
What would be a great committee?
Who?
That's what you said, Ann. Why did you?
I don't know what she said.
Oh, I think we'd all be good on it. It's going to be hard to limit it to 2. But really, we're just coming up with a feasibility. Wait, what did you say? Come back with a feasibility. Hammer out what it would look like. I'm taking notes on you, Denise.
Right. So
the group would work out draft procedures.
Right. I think the first step would be,
I'm sorry, Denise, go ahead.
it's okay. I think the first step would be to sort of to put thinking caps on about whether this is something that we can really accomplish, whether it's something that we are moving from the National Register to the inventory. It's a bit different, right? And
Yes.
maybe think about all those things that we can't think about right now as we move through the form and what that might mean. Jordan, you had a good example when you were talking about archaeological sites. I hadn't thought about that, but I had not thought about that. And right there, it means that, we haven't really thought this through. So I think it would be good if there were just a smaller group that was looking at what all of those ramifications might be. And then come back and report back. It might be that this is too much. I don't know. It could be that this is, too big of a project, that it's too complex. Who is gonna write it? Jordan, you had a good point. We even have practically all the information for Reston, and yet I don't think we're gonna, unless we hire a consultant, I don't think that these things are gonna get written. So is it even worth it to expend the time to come up with a process?
Yes.
Well, I think that feasibility is something that ought to be talked through. And maybe it just gets talked through in this group. And then the process gets assigned to a couple of people. But
the other thing, Denise, that you mentioned when we talked the other day that I had forgotten, is that by putting it on the inventory rather than the National Register, you just have to inform the people. You don't have to have their permission, which would help us with the clusters,
Yes.
golf course and water view. Yeah, I'm counting them, but yes. So that's a point.
That's a good one.
Down the road, in terms of feasibility and getting assistance, Tammy's working with a group of students right now from Nova. I'm not sure what their proficiency is, but these are people who are getting certificates of historic preservation from the community college. And they have to, as part of their capstone course, do a National Register nomination. And I wonder if we could potentially work with their faculty to accept working on our inventory nomination, since it's very similar.
They could be helped, but they couldn't do it alone because that's a beginning thing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and what they're doing for the PIF, they're not actually going to submit that PIF. They're doing it as the class project, and then they're going to show it to us, and we'll have to review it and make sure it's what we want to submit. But it's worth having somebody do all of that legwork. My goodness.
How did that come together? That's great.
That was Cheryl got connected at connection. Somebody was asking her, and I have to admit, I did sell. I was a salesman on that one. Groveton School, and they loved it. And they have run with it. I just got an email from the priest that they're at St. Louis, and he's met with them a couple times. He is thrilled that they have undertaken this. So it's great.
Maybe we could add it. Maybe we could add it to the mitigation measures for soapstone.
We don't need free help for that. We're going to make them pay for that. George.
Well, yeah, no, they'll pay for it, but we could use future preservationists. I like that. Emerging preservationists. Yeah.
That's good.
We could also get Mary Washington, students there.
Oh, that is a good
very
idea.
true. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So Denise, I think you have a yes, we'd like to do it. It's just where we go from here.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming, Elise, that you think so.
I agree. Denise, are there any materials that perhaps from the Park Service that you could give us that gives us examples of whatever we're talking about?
Yes. Well, there is a bulletin.
Property thematic nomination.
Yeah, there is a bulletin that the National Park Service has published, and I can send you that. There's also multiple examples. Anne has a specific one that she found on African American sites in Portland. Is that
Portland,
Portland? Yeah. But if we want to go closer to home, I know that Virginia has multiple property sites that they've written that we have here in Virginia. I don't know. I think the 29 Diner came in under a multiple property nomination for whatever those diners. So I think that was a part of a multiple property listing. It's just it helps, that you don't have to go back and do that context.
Are there any in Richmond? I seem to think that there was, but it's a vague memory.
Yeah, I shared the beachfront motels one with Ann this morning. Just that's what gave me the idea for Richmond Highway, was that beachfront motel.
So that one just passed. That's the Virginia Beach in Virginia Beach. Yeah, they just put that one through, which is a great, just cool. Oh, it's just and that might have even been what made me think about it. It is, looking at that nomination. But yes, at least I can share the bulletin and a couple of examples.
That's good. What kind of time frame would you like for us to get back together on this?
It's really up to you. Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking you for your what you think you might need.
Yeah, I don't anticipate this happening quickly. I don't. I think it sounds easy, but I don't think it's going to be.
Well, but there's two parts to that: how hard or easy, and versus how needed, how urgent.
Right.
I guess what we want is a first cut to say, is this a good way to go, or
Right.
is it maybe even quicker just to get somebody to do some clusters individually? I don't know. It just sounds like it makes a lot of sense, but we do need to look at it. And then if it would potentially open the floodgates, because you're sitting, the way you set it up, Denise, in the beginning, you've got these, did you call them zombies? Whatever they are, these limbo, these properties in limbo that things could happen to them. So I'm trying to think, are there ones that they identified? I'm trying to remember the survey itself and whatever I don't know about Reston. Are there a bunch that are like incredibly vulnerable?
No, what's vulnerable is she also talked about, and I don't know that I would fit in here, is the landscape, which is the golf course, which is a classic. And so she worked on Pinehurst and she recommended that. But the clusters themselves, they should go together because they were all part of Simon's master plan of clustering land and keeping open space. So they all were developed under the same motivation. And Golf Course Island is the farthest away from Lake Anne, but they're all there. They're Goodman, they're Louis Sauer, they were by the named architects that he picked to do them. So those were the ones she identified. So they have a commonality as far as why they were built.
Excuse me, Barbara. Yeah. So for Reston, then the new town planning, the three property types that I can see off the top of my head are those properties that come in under the industrial commercial development, and that would be the Association Drive office complex.
Right.
So, and then the clusters, which is what, as you say, the Goodman, the Louis Sauer, the
Rodeo Smith.
Thank you. I have such a hard time saying her first name.
But never spell it. I can just say it.
So it's about working, living, and playing, and then the recreation areas, and that's the golf courses.
Right.
And so apparently Goodman designed the equestrian center or stable or whatever, the riding rink.
Yeah, that's long
gone, which is already gone. Yeah. So I think that there's the historic context. There are identified property types, and I think the three identified property types would be the residential clusters, the leisure, and that would include maybe the trails and the golf courses and the commercial, that commercial strip that happened on north and south of the Dulles Toll Road. Which are, you know,
And a lot of that area is going daily. So what's still here are the clusters.
but
So-
that is what the Association Drive, that's why it's significant, because it was part of
Exactly
that
right.
original
It's,
master plan.
It's like a survivor at this point.
On life support, let me say.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true, Jordan.
Yeah.
Well, the county planners and the task force who worked on it, the citizens, just completely viewed all that as prime space to be redeveloped.
You know. That's right.
Yeah.
And any of you that haven't driven out here lately, just look at this crazy Wheelie Metro Center with this, pardon me, god-awful architecture, and it's just spreading. And all these the scale is changed, and the red brick and the shapes and the architecturally pleasing low-level buildings are literally being torn down.
Yeah.
And what's coming in are these very, like at Tyson's, these very weird things. So.
Yeah, I was in, we have some friends who just bought in a high rise on Market Street. I mean, they going for $1.3 million, $1.5 million.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I had no idea what was going on there. Robert would roll over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert wanted Paul. Robert wanted things to go up.
Yes, he did, but not necessarily, I think, in this style, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? But yes, he was excited to have a town center.
So speaking of Reston, everybody knows what happened at the consultation.
Actually,
Yeah.
you probably don't. Jordan.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just, if you're interested.
Yes.
Okay. So look, before, and I want to shout out to Denise. I don't know if you appreciate how incredibly conversant and knowledgeable Denise is in this process. I have come to respect her expertise hugely. We are so fortunate. Anyway, I made 2 calls before the consultation. The first was to a group called Cultural Heritage Partners. That is, they're consultants. I know them. Marion Werkheiser is one of the principals, and they have a 4F specialist. And I asked the 4F specialist to take a look at the 4F done by FHWA and get back to me and tell me, was this done well? Were there any holes in this? Was there anything that we could throw up? Even though it was a discussion about mitigation, I was prepared to raise an issue if he could find some holes in it. And he came back, very nice fellow, an attorney, and has an engineering background. He said, look, this is one of the best that I've seen.
Oh.
And Denise and I had talked a little bit about this, and she had made the point that, that this was probably tilting at windmills, but that's what we do sometimes. I was prepared to, if I had a leg to stand on. And after I talked to him, he spent the weekend looking this over for nothing, for free, came back to me. So I pretty much had what I needed. There was nothing left that we could throw up to save Association Drive. And so at the consultation, everybody was done well. Audrey did a good job of having everybody introduce themselves and then give their position, and mostly what would they see as mitigation. He had a consultant from Parsons firm, they're fairly reputable, who asked everybody to let their creative juices go. So that was, I thought, okay, great. Let me summon up my creative juices. They haven't gone in a while. So we did that. Also, I hadn't heard from Mark Holma. I had sent him 2 or 3 emails desperately trying to find out what the state position was, because last time that really helped us get the determination of eligibility. However, he was silent, and as I anticipated, they were ready to go talk about mitigation. So there was really nothing more to do. And you have to know when you've reached the point where you need to move on in the process. And we did. And people came up with some creative ideas for mitigation, of course. And let me just say that if we hadn't been able to get it determined eligible, that was a victory in itself. If that hadn't happened, we might not be able to get the documentation that we are now going to get. And I believe that. And actually, that's what the consultant at Heritage Partners said too, that don't feel bad. You really had a victory in getting that far.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suggested a virtual documentation. Of course, Burns was suggesting Hab's hair. And I urged them to let Hab's hair determine what level. Don't let anyone else. Predictably, the developers didn't used it as a platform to object to the historicity and whatever. I decided not to make a deal about that. What's the point? And they were talking about signage and trying, and also doing landscape as well as buildings. So I urged also and this was something Denise had suggested to me about the museum, get the Reston Museum involved, such as I've never been to the Reston Museum, but it sounded like a good idea at the time, and I'm sure it is. I also suggested that we get some students. That's why I just was saying that I thought there might be at George Mason some students that might want to get involved in this. Always a good thing to do if you can get younger people who are in that field an opportunity to learn. And I was interested too. I had not been able to get the advisory council to participate, but at the end, when they went through congratulating Audra, I did see the advisory council representative that handles FHWA was on the call, along with the Department of Transportation representative to the advisory council, Dave Clark. And I know that they were on because we had brought it to the advisory council, and they were probably anticipating that I might be unruly of some sort. But they were happily, I'm sure, pleased. And I complimented them. Once I knew that this had been done well, I felt that was in order. So, we fought the good fight, guys. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that and now we'll see. They're going to go back and put together a draft memo of agreement, and we'll look at it and see, how we feel. So.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
And congratulations. We all said it was the battle that we were trying to do, and I think we succeeded beyond what many people thought we could do. So yes. Bravo to you.
Yeah, you got to the mitigation
or whatever there with the flag.
Right.
Bravo.
On to the BRT, right?
Yeah.
Right. Next one up. Right.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of that, so we've been encouraged by DHR to do the two PIFs, two nominations, and so they're kind of on different tracks. With Wells Fargo, we almost have the inventory nomination done. So Chris and I need to figure out how to get that in front of this committee. But the other one seems like it's going to go the other way, where the PIF is going to be done first, and maybe that will go to DHR and hopefully get approved, and then come onto the inventory through that process. So I guess it's two different tracks.
Yep.
So, but I would envision that the Wells Fargo nomination will be done sometime in the next month.
Great. Terrific. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So we're at that initial stage of identification and evaluation. Yeah. Right. Good. I'm happy to now put my 106 expertise on that case. Help in any way I can, obviously. And a shout out to Cheryl too for being part of that process, getting the letters put together at the last minute.
Amen.
And really helping to lead the charge. Cheryl, You did. Yeah, yeah.
She did. She did.
That
That was great work.
Yep, yep.
Absolutely.
So now we don't have to do Wednesday's meeting. We just skipped it, right?
That's,
Yeah,
well,
kind of.
yeah.
Okay, is there anything else we need to cover tonight?
Well, hang on, need to finish who's gonna do what who's the little tiny committee?
I thought we were kind of gonna let that one ride a bit. Do some research and see what happens.
Oh, I thought we were gonna just have people that are gonna come up with the format, not the, you
Right.
know, to like, in normal times, sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about it and put down the ideas and creative ideas.
Well, who would like to work on it?
All of
No,
it.
Barbara has to.
Well,
The trouble is, I mean, it's everybody's time. I mean, it's really hard. I'd love to too, frankly. But I'm a little nervous about committing. Although it'll be easy. We just revised the form.
Sounds so easy.
Okay, Barbara, how about you and I give it a little bit of attention and see?
we'll try after we get through this April 20th mess.
Yes,
We can't touch it until after that.
yeah, we're doing.
Something has been dumped on us that should not be us doing it, and it's crazy. So after that, then I would be happy to work with Ann on it. That's all right with people.
And we're really just calling it, I like the idea of calling it sort of feasibility to see, while we're looking at how the document would adapt, we're also thinking about if it would be used, if it would be helpful, and what the next steps, how it would fit into a process. So, right.
Denise, can you help? Can you work with us? You too loaded.
No, I can't, but Anne has it right. That's exactly the way I'm thinking. I mean, before we start, trying to create forms or, getting that into any kind of detail, I just think we need to think about it, put some heads
Need a
together.
methodology, need a process.
Right,
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
So, but yeah, I'm happy to help if, I think probably I ought to.
I think so too. You let us into this swamp. Now you've got to be in there.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Hey, can I do minutes?
George is busy with down with VRT, so.
Elise want me to do minutes?
Sure, if you would like to, I'd be glad for you to.
Okay, I noticed I was taking notes, so I might as well.
I was just going to give a really cursory summary.
Yeah, me too.
Elise, did you contact a manufacturer for the plaque? Because I kind of dropped. I was going to try and follow up on that, and then I dropped that ball. Actually, honestly, I made like
that's still on my to-do list.
I'd
hoped that it had been taken over by somebody else, but it will come back onto my list.
I thought we had a couple of people identified because we had that landmark in Erie.
right.
Landmark.
So at least if you, I didn't want to necessarily confuse and muddy the waters, but if you want me to pick up on that, I did volunteer to try and follow up on it, and I made one phone call.
Okay.
That's good.
The minute this goes out, I'm getting a plaque made.
Actually, I made 2 phone calls.
I'm going to be the first.
I'm not sure what you all decided, but it was my idea that we would at least lay the groundwork with a few companies,
Right.
so that we could be able to tell people what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Anne looked at the companies that were listed on San Diego's sheet.
Oh,
And
that came from Denise. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
And noticed that many of them were from the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm working with Erie on a couple of things in Vienna anyway.
Yeah.
They're very Good.
So I mean, I did start and then got, washed away by other tides, but I can come back to it.
But the minute we provide the artwork, anybody, I mean, obviously for ease of we're going to tell them some ideas of people to work with, but the minute you have the style, you just, you Google plaques and send around and see and get some prices. I mean, it wouldn't be hard as once we put the image out there. I guess we should ask these guys what kind of form the image should be in to be helpful, you know.
Yeah, I can do that. I can follow up and I'll get that done. But
Okay. Good. Oh, and then we were saying, Elise, at some meeting, we were saying that once it's there, then I wrote down outreach in my notes. We can I don't know, what we say, get the public information office to send a press release or something, and we can
Put
write
it on
back,
put it on our website.
put it on our website, and write back all the people who wrote to us to inquire. We can't do a mailing.
No,
But
no.
we can talk to the public information people, the press office, whatever that's called, to get the word out. So that'll be
Yeah.
good.
Sounds like we have still are on a process. Do we need to set a next meeting, or do you want to see what happens with inventory nominations and progress with the multiple properties?
Multiple properties won't be available until May. I mean, to offer to you all.
Mhm. So we could set up something in May if we want, because we might have made some progress on the other nominations by then as well.
so we got those done by Monday.
Well,
You might actually be meeting in person in May.
Yes. Remember, we have a date on the 12th. If you have any comments
Oh,
on.
yeah, those are for Elise, and then, yeah.
Well, let's just play it by ear then and call a meeting when it looks like we have enough business accumulated to do that, unless you guys really want to set one tonight.
No, that's good, Elise.
Because we might say, by the 12th, we might say, I really want to see this much more information. I want to see this much. I want to do a site visit, whatever. And it might be that by May, we've got some next steps organized. Okay.
Okay, and we'll do that.
That sounds like a good plan.
So does anybody have anything else?
Just a reminder, and it's really more to refresh my memory. We actually did pass along with the Goldsmith building. The committee presented that nomination to the body of the whole, so I guess we'll have a vote on that.
Yes, on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Just to let you know, Elise, what, that's where the status is of that. So, because the lawyer was calling Denise on a regular basis, we reviewed that property and proceeded on that nomination.
Okay, then I should have a motion prepared for Wednesday then.
No, I think the motion's already gone forward. Well, I guess we have to do the motion, right? Yes.
Yes.
Well, and that actually brings up a question that I have, because I was looking at the inventory the other day, and the version that is online is 2019, and there are some changes. I don't know if you all have approved other properties since 2019, but I know some of the things on there have been demolished since 2019. So how often do you all update the actual master inventory list?
We'll be doing that this year.
Will that be this year? Okay. So this Goldsmith will end up, if it's approved on Wednesday, will end up on that new revision.
Yes, exactly. So I held off because Wadre went on the National Register, because it went on the National Register. It actually is now on the inventory. And then I knew that we had the Goldsmith House. So rather than doing 2 updates in a row, I just held off, and Collingwood will be noted as demolished. Peacock House, it will be noted as demolished. There's a handful of little changes.
Yeah. Lebanon, if Lebanon hasn't already, I don't know,
Yeah.
No, that's just the barn.
just the
No,
barn,
yeah.
okay. So that
Yeah.
doesn't have to change anything on the actual master list then.
No, just
Okay.
the barn is coming down. So there are a handful of small changes that need to happen. But I'm waiting for the Goldsmith House before I move ahead.
Okay. Cool.
But just to let you know, the GIS layer has been updated on all of these properties, and we do have site forms on everything. So that one sheeter, all of that is done. It's just that the master list hasn't been updated. It's kind of a pain to do ADA compliance for tables. So but that's why it's the last thing to do. You know, I only want to do it one time. I don't want to have it. Yeah, so
Sounds like a pain.
it is.
Okay, well then, I think that I will go eat my tardy dinner.
Good idea.
All right. Bon appetit.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
Good
see
night.
you, Elise. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
Bye.
Wednesday.
Great to see you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.